Bill Clinton, if there are photos, an investigation should open. Now listen, there's no criminal...
Is there more evidence that Bill Clinton did something wrong than Donald Trump?
The problem with Donald Trump is listen, the problem with... Let me finish. Hey, let me
people
finish.
Are so outraged. I wasn't stopped talking. People are so outraged. You're so outraged about Trump.
Mockler appeared on a CNN program hosted by Abby Phillip, where panel debates often feature sharply opposing political perspectives. These discussions can be challenging, but they also offer a rare opportunity to test ideas in real time in front of a national audience. What stood out in this exchange was Mockler's approach: calm, direct, and grounded in facts. Rather than escalating tensions, he stayed focused on the substance of the arguments, pressing his points clearly while responding to criticism without hesitation. Moments like this matter because they show how political debate can be firm without becoming chaotic. In an era of polarized media, effective communication isn't about shouting louder. It's about staying credible, composed, and prepared. We're going to break down the most important clips from this discussion and talk about what worked, what didn't, and why it matters going forward. If you value thoughtful political analysis, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more coverage, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let's get into it.
Let me just read for you, actually. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene. She says, this is horrifying. Trump called me a traitor for fighting him to release the Epstein files and standing with women who were raped, jailed, in stalls, and trafficked to men. Only evil people would hide this and protect those who participated. I pray for these women. The files today, I mean, people's names in terms of people who were involved, allegedly, are not in here. But it's very clear that there was something big happening behind the scenes. Tons of victims, tons and tons of evidence. That's why, going back to what we were talking about in the beginning, if you know anything about this case, it seems entirely improbable that it was limited just to the two individuals who we know are named, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
This is why I believe that Ghislaine Maxwell's statement to Todd Blanche, 9 hours recorded, right? The audio's out there now, was so utterly non-credible, was so utterly non-believable, because Ghislaine Maxwell's version of events was nobody did anything wrong here except maybe Jeffrey Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell said, I did nothing wrong. If you believe that the only people who did anything wrong are the two people who've been indicted for this, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, I don't know what to tell you. But I want to point out another thing that DOJ is doing, to your point, Abby, that violates the law. DOJ has decided we are going to redact out the names of people who might have done wrong, but this might be embarrassing to. I understand that instinct, but let me read you what the law, the Epstein Transparency Act, says. It says, no record shall be withheld on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, including to any government official, public figure, or foreign dignitary. Now, if you don't like that, that's fine. But this is what the law says. And DOJ has said, we're going to take out those names anyway.
That's astonishing. What's astonishing is that DOJ is just flouting the law.
Well, let's put in context for the viewers, though, how unusual that is. Because I think we got a lot of lawyers and former lawyers on this panel. I think it is so unusual that I think the execution of it has some folks in the DOJ who have been there 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, as a lot of career people are, confounded because it's not what the policy has been.
Unusual, but it's the law.
Well, it doesn't make it impossible.
So what are you going to do? You just going to ignore it?
I mean, that's right. I mean, Mark's right that all of this is contrary to what DOJ would ordinarily do. You'd never dump all of our investigative files. Right. You'd never name names of people who weren't indicted. But the law that passed 427-1 in the House, unanimous in the Senate, that Trump signed, says you have to do it this way. I think there's a lesson here, by the way. I think this law is overbroad. I think this law is leading us into dead ends, is leading us into all sorts of documents that are presented without context, but they have to follow it.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yes.
I mean, isn't the remedy for this, I don't know. They
don't have a remedy. They have to follow
can't they challenge it?
No, I don't think DOJ has a basis to say, I guess
they challenge the constitutionality.
I guess
if the idea is that maybe people's rights are being infringed upon, would they not challenge the constitutionality of a law that forces them to infringe on maybe people's right to not self-incriminate or whatever it is?
It's a good question. I think if DOJ was independent, they could go into court and say, yes, this violates the rights of uncharged people, the presumption of innocence. Pam Bondi has chosen not to do that.
Yeah. Let me play what the victims have been saying all day today. This is just a snippet of the reaction among some of the women who have come forward about their involvement in the Epstein saga.
I think that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel both need to resign. And I would love to see number 47 get impeached over this.
They are re-victimizing us in the same way. They gave us this moment of the Transparency Act where we passed a law and we were like, we're seen, we're here, we've arrived. And now to see the carelessness of the way that they're handling, survivors, it's just abhorrent. It's exhausting.
It's hard to hear that. It's hard to watch these women, as she said, be re-victimized. Yeah. DOJ officials were saying, well, if you have a problem with how we're doing this, you know how to reach me, just call me. Some of them have. Nobody's done anything about their names being in these documents.
But Abby, that's the very reason why the sensitivity and the typical policy of the DOJ in conjunction with these investigations is what it is to avoid re-victimizing
people. But it is not happening. That is the problem.
We have photographs of a woman, more than one woman, who were clearly victimized, clearly trafficked. They've been adjudicated to have been victimized and trafficked. Receiving massages and being intimately touched by one of the most influential and consequential political figures in the United States of America, and that's Bill Clinton. Where are the Democrats demanding that there be an investigation of this person?
No one is defending Bill Clinton. I'll do it right now. Bill Clinton, if there are photos, an investigation should open. Now listen, there's no criminal...
Is there more?
Let's pause here, because this is a key point that often gets missed in these debates. You'll often hear a familiar response from some conservative commentators. What about Bill Clinton? But that argument doesn't reflect how most people on the left actually think. There's no broad movement defending Bill Clinton at all costs. The standard is simple and consistent. If someone committed wrongdoing, they should be held accountable, regardless of party or name. Accountability isn't selective. If Bill Clinton broke the law, investigate it. If Donald Trump did, the same principle applies. Pointing to someone else doesn't change the facts of the case at hand. It just avoids addressing them. And that's why this line of argument keeps falling flat. Let's get back to Adam Mockler as he continues making this case on the panel.
That Bill Clinton did something wrong with Donald Trump.
The problem with Donald Trump is listen, the problem with, let me finish. Hey, let me
people
finish.
Are so outraged. I wasn't stopped talking. People are so outraged. You're so outraged about Trump being in a photograph.
The problem with Donald Trump is his repeated abuse of power dynamics. Throughout Donald Trump's entire life, he has abused power dynamics.
Wasn't screwing underage girls like Bill Clinton.
He walked into dressing rooms after he owned the beauty.
Claims aren't facts. And in political debates, evidence matters. That's where this conversation often goes off track. When accusations are raised, the standard should be consistent. If credible evidence supports an investigation of any public figure, Democrat or Republican, it should be examined fairly. Accountability isn't partisan. What undermines trust is treating one side as above scrutiny while demanding it of the other. A healthy democracy depends on facts, not deflection. If you value evidence-based discussion, like the video, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts respectfully below.
Have you seen the Howard Stern clip where he walked into dressing rooms?
Bill Clinton.
He says he grabs women because they let him do it. You can just keep talking over me. Can I say something?
Those are the enemy.
All right,
Those are the bad guys.
Let's do this one at a time. Adam, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was trying to make a broader point that there's no criminal activity that has been proven with Trump, but his entire life has been spent abusing power dynamics. I don't even know if he knows what power dynamics are. He bragged about walking into the beauty pageant dressing rooms and 15-year-old girls then corroborated that and said he would walk into the dressing rooms. Abusive power dynamics. He said he grabbed women because they let him do it. You heard that clip, right? You've heard that clip. Abuse of power dynamics. Abuse of power dynamics. Now that he's in office, he's abusing these same power dynamics to cover up the files, delay the releases, redact the releases. I don't care about Bill Clinton, Joe.
Go ahead and respond.
Do we all agree that Bill Clinton probably molested women? I'm not laughing.
Wait. Actually,
do we all agree?
There are more photos of Epstein and Trump than Epstein and Clinton.
Molested children.
Hold on a second, Joe. No, we do not know that Bill Clinton.
He's not in a picture with you, Fred.
Joe, we do not know that Bill Clinton is doing what you are alleging.
Is there more evidence that Bill Clinton acted appropriately
that Donald Trump
Where was Giuffre trafficked out of, huh? Where was Giuffre trafficked out of?
Hold on a second. Seriously. I think both of you, I get it, right? Like, there is a lot of politics involved here. But at the end of the day, there are people involved. We don't know all of them, who they are. The political world is now focused only on two men for competing political reasons. And the people left in the rubble of that are women who were actually trafficked. This doesn't make any sense.
One of them, the women have said consistently that they were not touched by Donald Trump.
But your entire focus on just these two individuals completely obscures the bigger picture.
I'm not. I just know that there's a photo of that guy.
All I will say,
I don't know the other people.
Hold on a second. All I will say about Bill Clinton is I take him at his word that they want every document released. They don't think they have anything to hide. I would like to see President Trump and his administration say and act similarly, because I think that would be refreshing for the political system. Let's all sides
sign
of
it.
just say put it all out.
Let's talk about one of the areas where things have really gone wrong with this situation, why we wound up with this Epstein Transparency Act that directs the DOJ to do something that have no historical precedent to my knowledge, right? And I practiced law for a couple of years too, as you know. Why did it take this long? How many presidential administrations? How many reviews of these investigations? Why does it take this kind of an extraordinary act that is re-victimizing these poor women once again? What's been going on for the past 15 years? That's what we should be asking.
That is the question.
That's what we should be asking.
One of the few important, indisputable things that we've learned from this is that victims were coming forward to the FBI as early as 1996.
Yeah.
There's a lesson there. Forget about your politics. There's a lesson there in being responsive to victims and giving them a fair hearing. Look, the original sin in this case was 2007, 2008, when Alexander Acosta, who was the U.S. attorney for the time, gave this absurd softball deal to Jeffrey Epstein, let him serve 13 months in state custody instead of he should have done decades in federal prison. By the way, that's one of the outstanding questions here. It's one of the things we've not yet seen in these documents. What were those prosecutors in that office saying? Because we know from prior OPR reports that there were prosecutors in that office. Maria Villafana is the name of one of them. That's public, who objected to that softball deal. That's something we need for accountability.
Some of the many documents I think that the victims want are things that speak to that. They want to see more financial documents. You know, I think that in a way, when you hear them, they're not as worked up about these photographs as many of the people in the public are, because they want the investigative documents that point to what happened in these investigations. Why was that 1996 complaint not ever followed? What does it say on the flight manifests and the ledgers, the financial ledgers? Important information that's not out yet, should have been out last Friday. But here we are, law just being kind of casually flouted by the administration. We'll see how long that continues. Next for us.
When it comes to powerful political figures, the standard shouldn't change based on party or popularity. Accountability only works if it's applied consistently. And that's the core issue at the center of today's debate. For years, Americans have heard allegations surrounding multiple former presidents. Some commentators argue we should take certain figures at their word. That's where I disagree. History shows that power demands scrutiny, not trust without evidence. This isn't about defending one political camp over another. It's about applying the same legal and ethical standards across the board. When allegations arise, regardless of who they involve, the appropriate response is transparency, due process, and, if warranted, the courts. Too often, the conversation shifts into partisan deflection. Instead of addressing the substance of concerns, we hear arguments framed as protecting victims or preserving stability. Those may sound reasonable on the surface, but without full transparency, they risk becoming excuses to avoid accountability altogether. If documents exist, they should be released responsibly. If there's evidence, it should be evaluated through legal channels. That approach protects everyone involved: accusers, the accused, and the public's trust in institutions. The deeper issue is credibility. When information is selectively released, or perceived to be, it fuels long-term skepticism. We've seen this before. Decades later, people still question official narratives because they felt key facts were withheld. Once trust is lost, it's incredibly difficult to restore, and that's why this matters beyond any single individual. If accountability appears uneven, future debates won't be about facts, they'll be about whataboutism, endlessly recycling old arguments instead of resolving them. So where does that leave us? Simple. No special treatment, no selective outrage, just equal scrutiny, transparent processes, and respect for the rule of law, no matter whose name is involved. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think our system applies accountability fairly? Or does partisanship still shape how these cases are handled? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you found this breakdown helpful, consider subscribing for more clear, fact-focused analysis. I'm Insights Brief. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.